Sudan, a nation with a long and complex history of military rule, civil strife, and political upheaval, has once again found itself in the throes of violent conflict. Since April 2023, the country has been gripped by a power struggle between two rival military factions, the Sudanese Armed Forces (SAF) and the Rapid Support Forces (RSF). But to fully grasp the roots of this conflict, we need to look deeper into Sudan's past, its colonial legacy, military dominance, and the fragile democratic transitions that have repeatedly failed. Sudan's modern history is defined by instability. Gaining independence from British and Egyptian rule in 1956, the country quickly plunged into its first civil war. The deep ethnic, religious, and regional divisions within Sudan created a volatile political landscape, one that has been further exacerbated by military interventions. Sudan has experienced multiple coups, with the military acting as both the stabilizer and the destroyer of civilian governance. For decades, strongmen like Jafar Naimari and Omar al-Bashir ruled the country with an iron grip. It was under Bashir's leadership, from 1989 to 2019, that Sudan saw some of its most devastating conflicts, including the war in Darfur, which would later become a critical factor in today's struggle. Fast forward to 2019, after 30 years in power, Bashir was ousted following mass protests demanding democratic reform. The removal of Bashir created a fragile political balance, with a transitional government formed through an uneasy partnership between the civilian-led Forces of Freedom and Change (FFC) and the military. This military-civilian coalition was meant to guide Sudan towards democracy. But in 2021, the military staged yet another coup, removing civilian leadership and taking full control. The two dominant military forces, the SAF, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and the RSF, led by General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, commonly known as Ahmedti, worked together to consolidate power. However, tensions between the two factions soon began to boil over. To understand the power struggle in 2023, we need to break down the two key players. 1. The Sudanese Armed Forces (SAF), the official military force of Sudan, rooted in traditional army structures and historically loyal to the state. Led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the SAF sees itself as the rightful guardian of Sudan's sovereignty. 2. The Rapid Support Forces (RSF), originally formed from the notorious Janjaweed militias responsible for atrocities in Darfur, the RSF evolved into a semi-autonomous paramilitary force. Under Ahmedti's leadership, it became increasingly powerful, securing lucrative gold mining revenues and expanding its influence both domestically and internationally. The tipping point came in April 2023. The dispute over the integration of the RSF into the National Army sparked a full-scale conflict. The RSF, fearing a loss of autonomy, resisted attempts to be absorbed into the SAF. Skirmishes escalated into all-out war, with both sides vying for control of key infrastructure, including military bases, airports, and government buildings. This conflict has turned major cities like Khartoum into battlegrounds. Civilians have been caught in the crossfire, humanitarian aid has been blocked, and regional powers are now deeply involved in Sudan's fate. As the war rages on, global actors have responded with a mix of condemnation, mediation efforts, and strategic maneuvering. The African Union, the United Nations, and neighboring countries like Egypt, Chad, and Ethiopia have called for ceasefires, though these efforts have largely failed. Meanwhile, foreign powers such as the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Russia have their own stakes in the outcome, either supporting factions financially or using Sudan's instability to advance their interests. What happens next? The conflict is at a stalemate, with neither side capable of securing a decisive victory. Sudan's civilian population is suffering the most, with millions displaced and essential services collapsing. If history tells us anything, it's that Sudan's military factions have rarely prioritized democracy. Yet, the resistance from Sudanese civil society remains strong. Protest movements, despite being suppressed, continue to demand civilian rule. The question remains, will Sudan emerge from this crisis with a genuine path toward democracy, or will the cycle of military rule and violence continue? Only time will tell. If you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into global conflicts. What do you think is the future of Sudan? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.